This is a forbidden romance with a 21-year age gap, and buried within it lies a secret powerful enough to flip human nature on its head. Years later, their paths cross again in a courtroom, which is when he realizes the woman who helped him grow is actually an executioner from the history books, whose hands are stained with crimson. Once the truth in court shatters the filter of first love, the trial of morality and desire truly begins. This woman used nothing but a handkerchief to hook this 15-year-old boy for a lifetime. Yet, behind that gentle facade, she once personally locked 300 people into an inferno. In the courtroom, 6 war criminals shift the blame onto each other, while she is the only one who calmly admits to the deed. But what nobody knows is that the only reason she does this is to protect the secret that she is illiterate. 15-year-old Michael is immersed in a realm of intimacy and reading, while 25-year-old Michael, paralyzed by cowardice, can only watch as his former lover is sentenced to life in prison. The movie opens with the camera cutting to an older Michael. Even though Michael now lives a life of luxury, he still can't help but feel that his current life might not be as beautiful as the past once was. Perhaps you felt that same way at some point in your life. It isn't until the woman Michael spent the night with appears that the facade of his perfect life is finally stripped away. From their conversation, we learn that Michael's marriage is not going well. A subsequent shot hides a telling detail. As he sees the woman off, Michael forces a faint smile, but the moment she leaves, that smile instantly vanishes. Perhaps deep in Michael's heart, a secret remains buried that is far too difficult to speak aloud. He then walks to the window, watching the trams roar by as his thoughts drift back to the scene that changed his life forever. The story takes place in 1958 in West Germany. In the bone-chilling rain, 15-year-old Michael is soaked to the bone and feels so ill he's on the verge of vomiting. He stumbles into a foyer, desperately needing a place to rest. Just then, a woman dressed in a uniform passes by after finishing her shift. Seeing the fragile boy, her heart softens, so she quickly pulls out a handkerchief to gently wipe the rainwater and vomit from his face. Michael breaks down in tears from the pain, and seeing this, the woman doesn't hesitate to pull him into a warm embrace. At this moment, neither of them realizes that a simple chance encounter will become a lifelong emotional entanglement. When Michael returns home, the dinner table is thick with the typical suffocating atmosphere of the middle class. His mother mechanically expresses concern and understanding, while his father mechanically makes every decision for the family. They lack passion in everything they do and seem largely uninterested in their son. Before long, Michael is diagnosed with scarlet fever, a serious infectious disease that requires him to be quarantined at home for several months. Upon hearing the news, his mother immediately takes his sister and leaves the room. During this lonely and monotonous isolation, Michael can only lie in bed, organizing his beloved stamps to try and make time move faster. Once his health improves slightly, Michael mentions to his mother that a woman helped him. After hearing this, his mother reminds him that he should personally bring flowers to thank her. Following his mother's advice, he carries a bouquet and enters that old apartment building once again. From this shot, we can see a sharp contrast between Michael's home and the woman's apartment. There are only 2 residents in this building, so Michael decides to try his luck since he doesn't even know her name. As he climbs the stairs, the camera uses a low-angle shot. The way Michael looks at the stairs suggests he is viewing the place with the curiosity of a wealthy person looking down at the lives of the poor. He soon finds a door left slightly ajar, with melodic music drifting out from inside. He pushes the door open gently, and the camera follows Michael's movements, clearly showing the environment where Hannah lives. Michael intends to give the flowers to Hannah, but she ignores him and simply tells him to put them in the sink. Michael nervously sets the flowers down and looks around, noticing that while the room is small, it is full of the breath of life. When his gaze lands on the undergarments Hannah is ironing, he becomes flustered and starts stuttering about how he's been sick and bored, claiming he didn't even feel like flipping through a book. These words seem to strike a chord with Hannah as she stops her iron mid-motion. Just as Michael is about to take his leave, Hannah calls him back and invites him to walk downstairs with her. Michael waits quietly in the hallway, but he can't help peeking through the crack in the door. In that moment, Hannah appears exceptionally captivating, making his heart race. Hannah seems to sense something off and looks toward the door. Their eyes meet in the air, instantly filling the space with an awkward and ambiguous tension. Terrified, Michael flees the scene. Yet, after returning home, he tosses and turns, unable to suppress the waves in his heart. A few days later, Michael secretly returns to Hannah's door, only to run into her just as she is coming home from work. However, Hannah isn't surprised by his sudden visit and even uses a commanding tone to tell him to carry 2 buckets of coal up for her. Michael obediently complies, but by the time he brings the coal back to the room, he has turned into a little soot ball himself. Michael's disheveled appearance makes the usually stoic Hannah smile for the first time. She then prepares a bath for Michael, telling him to get clean before heading home. Michael obeys again, quickly taking off his shirt, though he hesitates when it comes to his pants. Fortunately, Hannah tells him she won't look, so Michael awkwardly sheds the rest of his clothes. But the moment he steps into the water, Hannah secretly pulls back the curtain. In the tub, Michael feels a mix of shyness and excitement, along with a physical thrill he can't control. Before long, Hannah holds up a towel to help dry him off. Feeling her touch, Michael's heart rate skyrockets, leaving him momentarily at a loss. Right then, Hannah turns his body around. Witnessing this, Michael is left in awe. Then, Hannah begins to kiss Michael. Initially, Michael is a bit clumsy, but thanks to Hannah's patient guidance, she successfully helps him complete his rite of passage. After Michael returns home, he is still basking in the joy he just experienced. The cinematography here is brilliantly executed, utilizing a long montage to interweave the scenes of the family dinner with their intimate moments. From then on, Michael rushes to Hannah's side every day after school. Every time they meet, they get straight to the point, and that old apartment becomes his new sanctuary. Afterward, Michael curiously asks for Hannah's name. Initially, Hannah is guarded, but seeing the innocence in his eyes, her defenses melt away. From that point on,
it's Hannah.
Michael calls her Hannah, while Hannah still refers to him as Kid. The time Michael looks forward to most every day is the hours after school, craving that intimate connection with Hannah. That day, just as they finish their intimate moments, Hannah caringly asks Michael about his studies. When she learns he is studying Latin, she immediately becomes excited and asks Michael to read a few lines from his lessons. Michael recites some classic sentences at random. Seeing how interested Hannah is, Michael excitedly pulls out a German textbook to share. But Hannah shakes her head and pushes the book back, stating she'd rather listen to Michael read aloud. Thus, reading becomes a new ritual following their intimacy. At first, Michael is a bit shy because, for various reasons, he lacks self-confidence. However, Hannah constantly praises his reading, which helps him gradually find his confidence. Buoyed by Hannah's praise, Michael plays harder than ever on the school basketball court, beginning to believe he truly has talent and growing more confident by the day. One day after school, Michael specifically takes the tram where Hannah is working her shift, hoping to give her a surprise. But he never expects that what he gets in return is a sudden burst of her anger. Hannah doesn't seem to like others getting too close to her personal life, which Michael finds incomprehensible. This marks the first time Hannah loses her temper with Michael, though she eventually chooses to apologize.
I didn't mean to upset you.
You don't have the power to upset me. You don't matter enough to upset me.
Her words pierce deep into Michael's heart. Even though there is a 21-year age gap, Michael always treats this relationship with total sincerity. He hides in the hallway and cries in solitude, his heart heavy with grievance and loss. However, he quickly wipes his tears and walks back to Hannah to explain his feelings. Hannah's brow furrows slightly.
We've been together for weeks, and I can't live without you. I can't. Even the thought of it kills me. I sat in the second carriage because I thought you might kiss me.
Kid, you thought we could make love in a tram?
Is it true what you said? That I don't matter to you? Do you love me?
And after some thought, she nods. Perhaps before this, she had never seriously examined their relationship. But from then on, their bond returns to the way it was. Only this time, Hannah suggests they read first before enjoying their intimacy. Although the order is slightly adjusted, Michael is more than happy with it because, in his heart, reading is just as important as Hannah herself. From that day forward, Michael brings a new book every time he visits, untiringly reading to Hannah. Hannah listens with total immersion, sometimes moved to tears, and other times bursting into laughter. This time, Michael reads the famous novel Lady Chatterley's Lover to her.
You should be ashamed.
Time flies during their exchanges, moving from the falling snow of their first meeting to the light clothes of summer, as everything seems to change quietly. Michael has a small plan. He wants Hannah to take a few days off so they can go on a date outside the confines of the room. Hannah is hesitant at first, but after seeing everything Michael has prepared, she finally agrees. For the sake of this love, Michael even sells his long-cherished stamp collection because to him, love has outweighed everything else.
I'm not frightened of anything. The more I suffer, the more I love. Danger will only increase my love. It will sharpen it. It will give it spice. I'll be the only angel you need. You will leave life even more beautiful than you entered it. Heaven will take you back and look at you and say, only one thing can make a soul complete. And that thing is love.
The narration here comes from intrigue and love, and in this sequence, the director uses a match cut to transition from Michael running out of a shop to their bicycle trip. During this, the color palette shifts dramatically, moving from the cold tones of the city to the warm tones of nature, hinting at Michael's uplifted mood. They embark on a cycling journey, passing through picturesque scenery that makes one want to linger forever. When hunger strikes, they stop at a roadside shop to grab a bite. Strangely, when the proprietress asks for their order, Hannah, holding the menu, looks completely helpless and eventually asks Michael to order for her. Before they depart, the proprietress says to Michael,
"Hope your mother was happy."
but Michael doesn't say much. He simply gives Hannah a bold, public kiss. Next, they cycle to their next destination, arriving at a cathedral filled with an atmosphere of peace. Hannah is moved by the sounds of the hymns inside and unconsciously walks in. A moment later, Michael follows her into the church. Standing at the entrance, he sees Hannah with tears glistening in her eyes, silently listening to the music. In this moment, Hannah looks completely different from her usual self. She has dropped her hard exterior, appearing as though the music has awakened the softest part of her soul. This sequence is exceptionally well shot. The children inside the cathedral are singing, "The Children of the Hebrews," and Hebrew refers to the ancestors of the Jewish people. Through the earlier hints, one could guess that Hannah has some connection to the regime, but we don't yet know exactly what she did. The filming here feels very solemn, with Hannah sitting there alone, looking like a devout believer. In similar scenes, a director would usually show a character's face from the front, but here, we see it through Michael's subjective point of view. In this composition, Hannah is framed against the staircase, making it clear that she is, in fact, trapped. All of this is tied to her past. When the camera moves to a close-up of Michael, there is an iron gate beside him, symbolizing his destiny, or perhaps his choice, though these realizations only come later. But here, Hannah finds a form of redemption, or at least she is moved and chooses to seek atonement. It is obvious from this shot as the natural light slowly fades from Hannah's face. Despite spending so much time with her, Michael knows nothing of her past, but he feels that's fine. He even writes a long poem for Hannah just to record the beauty of the moment. Even years later, when Michael sees this poem again, he can't help but smile at the memory. As autumn approaches, a particularly eye-catching new student named Sophie joins the class. Her beauty and grace turn many heads, and boys start falling for her left and right. However, Michael remains completely unaffected. His focus is already locked on something else, reading The Lady with the Dog to Hannah. This cold attitude actually catches Sophie's attention, and she begins trying to talk to him, even smiling at him during swimming class. Despite this, Michael sticks to his plan, leaving school early to head straight to Hannah's house to read her the book. However, Hannah isn't immersed in the story as usual. Instead, she seems restless, and even stops Michael's reading for the first time. It turns out the reason for Hannah's restlessness is that her work report was so well written that she's been promoted to a comfortable office job. This should have been a moment worth celebrating, but Hannah's face is clouded with gloom. Michael is angry. He defies Hannah's command for the first time because today is his birthday, and his own lover didn't even know. Once again, Michael chooses to back down. This is his first time in love, and facing these emotions, he truly doesn't know how to cope. After they both calm down, Hannah pulls out a book again for Michael to read. Then, Hannah patiently bathes Michael like a warm mother figure. Michael, however, is full of confusion, and his heart is heavy with unease. After their usual exchange ends, Hannah tells him to go find his friends. But when Michael returns to his friends, he is suddenly hit by a wave of anxiety. By the time he rushes back to Hannah's house, he finds it completely empty. Hannah has already vanished, leaving without even saying goodbye. Michael feels utterly hopeless, unable to understand why Hannah could be so heartless and wondering what he truly meant to her. He can't vent the bitterness of this failed romance to anyone, so he can only curl up in a corner, feeling the weight of endless loneliness. Time flies, and 8 years pass in the blink of an eye. Michael is now a student at Heidelberg Law School, performing excellently in his studies and catching the eye of many female students. Yet, despite appearing successful to the outside world, a wound remains unhealed deep in his heart: the sudden departure of Hannah. It isn't until this day that things finally take a turn. Michael and his classmates follow their professor to observe a trial regarding former members of the regime. He starts the day in a good mood, but the moment the judge reads out a familiar name, his heart sinks to the bottom of the ocean. After 8 years, Hannah reappears before Michael in this manner, leaving him in total disbelief. Michael's eyes are locked on the woman standing in the defendant's dock, his heart a mess of conflicting emotions. Her expression is still as firm and indifferent as ever, as if time had never left a mark on her. At this point, Hannah's past begins to unfold before his eyes like a scroll. Michael starts to truly understand her story. Hannah was born in 1922 and joined the guard units in 1943, serving as a guard at Auschwitz before transferring to a smaller camp. The judge asks if she volunteered for the job and if she realized how cruel the work was. Hannah shakes her head. To her, it was just a job advertisement, and she simply applied because she needed work. In the courtroom, the other accomplices act as if they had nothing to do with it, quietly knitting sweaters on the side. The judge continues to press Hannah, asking if she knew that the 60 people selected at the end of each month were being sent to the major camps to be unalived. The other accomplices had long denied any knowledge, but Hannah is the only one who admits to it. The courtroom instantly erupts into a frenzy, leaving the defense lawyer speechless. Startled, the judge asks once more if she understood that her choices directly decided whether those people lived or passed away. Hannah answers without hesitation. The judge is puzzled and asks her directly.
Let me rephrase. To make room, you were picking women out and saying you and you and you have to be sent back to be killed.
Well, what would you have done?
This counter-question stuns the judge and the entire audience. Sitting in the gallery, Michael keeps his head down, but his heart is already a raging storm. He cannot face the fact that the woman he once loved was involved in the slaughter of innocents, yet she shows no remorse. Then, the judge calls upon a mother and daughter who survived, and they act as witnesses to identify the 6 guards present at the time. Their impression of Hannah is particularly deep because her way of choosing people was somewhat different, as she always selected those who were physically weak and would even give them food. When night fell, Hannah would call them to her side, and while they initially thought she was going to force them to do something, it turned out she only wanted them to read books to her. At first, the prisoners thought Hannah was protecting them, but the very next day, they would still be sent off to be unalived. It wasn't until 1994 that the camps finally ceased operations, but this didn't end people's suffering. Instead, it pulled back the curtain on another terrifying journey. That night, Hannah and the others locked over 300 people inside a church, while they themselves moved into better accommodations. Soon after, a sudden bombing destroyed the church, and as the flames rapidly spread, the crowd desperately rushed toward the only exit, only to find the great door had been locked tight. In the end, the inferno claimed every life, with only that mother and daughter narrowly managing to survive. Years later, the daughter of the survivor wrote a book about her experiences, and this book exposed the truth of the Auschwitz camp. To gain a clearer understanding of Hannah's past, Michael chooses to visit Auschwitz, hoping to crack the secret hidden deep within her heart. Even after carefully examining the exhibits in the museum, he still finds it difficult to fully grasp what Hannah was thinking. During the final hearing, the judge presents an investigation report on the fire, but since the document is unsigned, everyone needs to determine who actually wrote it. Hannah states it was the result of a joint team discussion, but the others all point their fingers at her as the ringleader, claiming every decision was made by her alone. Facing their accusations, Hannah denies them with all her might. The judge immediately declares that a handwriting analysis is required. After such a long trial, this is the first time Hannah shows visible panic and fear. At this moment, Michael also has a sudden epiphany and finally understands the truth of the matter. It turns out Hannah has been illiterate all along, which is exactly why she was so dependent on Michael and always had him read to her. And that confused expression she had in front of the restaurant menu, all of it was because Hannah couldn't recognize a single word. So Hannah's fear doesn't stem from being afraid her crimes will be exposed, but rather from the worry that her secret of being illiterate will come to light, which would be her greatest humiliation. In the end, Hannah chooses to sacrifice her freedom in exchange for her dignity, admitting she was the primary architect of the deed. and this decision is highly likely to make her spend the rest of her life behind bars. Perhaps to her, the value of dignity far outweighs a long and lonely life in prison. During this time, Michael goes through a massive internal struggle. He finds his mentor and reveals that he holds a piece of evidence that could potentially change Hannah's fate. If submitted to the judge, she would likely receive a reduced sentence. But from a moral standpoint, doing so would undoubtedly be indirectly helping an accomplice of the regime. What makes him even more conflicted is that Hannah would rather be imprisoned for life than give up her dignity. Michael is caught in a deep contradiction over how to choose. Michael remains unable to confront this hidden emotional entanglement. His mentor advises him to try having a direct conversation with Hannah, so Michael goes to the prison, preparing to ask her for the truth in person. However, the moment he steps into the prison, a surge of complicated emotions overwhelms him, causing his footsteps to falter. In this conflict between love and morality, logic finally gains the upper hand. Michael helplessly turns around and leaves. In the days that follow, Michael returns to school. During this time, he takes the initiative to contact the female classmate with whom he had an ambiguous relationship, hoping that conversation might soothe his inner anxiety. However, after a deep exchange between them, Michael finds that the former ease and joy have vanished completely, replaced by a powerful urge to escape. He realizes that he can never again enjoy that simple sense of happiness he once had. In the blink of an eye, the day of the sentencing arrives, and Michael stands outside the courthouse, feeling torn and not daring to step inside. He has a faint feeling that Hannah might have been prepared for this moment all along, whether to express a final bit of defiance or simply to keep a sense of decency for herself. During the trial, the crowd below erupts in anger, roaring that Hannah's crimes are unforgivable. The judge announces the sentences for the other guards, 4 years and 3 months of imprisonment. But Hannah, as the ringleader responsible for the loss of over 300 lives, is sentenced to life in prison because her crimes were far too horrific. Even so, her gaze remains calm and indifferent, as if nothing can shake her heart anymore. Just as the judge's gavel falls, Hannah's eyes inadvertently sweep toward the gallery, and she sees Michael. In that instant, Michael's heart skips a beat. The sound of the sentence thunders in his ears, and tears immediately blur his vision. He isn't even sure if he's regretting his own choice at this moment, or feeling a profound sense of pity for Hannah. After the sentencing, Michael heads to a foreign city to start a new life. There, he becomes a lawyer, starts a family, and raises children. He thought time would fade the memories, but it turns out he has only buried the past deep within his heart, while simultaneously closing off his emotional world. Every partner by his side is unable to truly enter his heart, and that hastily ended marriage is the best proof of this. A decade quietly slips away, and Michael returns to solitude, taking along his only 10-year-old daughter. While sorting through old belongings, an old book inadvertently unlocks the beautiful memories of reading to Hannah, and those warm scenes feel as vivid as if they happened yesterday. At the same time, he once again feels the deep affection for Hannah that he had buried for many years, leading him to come up with a bold idea. He sends Hannah some tapes and a simple tape recorder. When Hannah carefully turns on the recorder, the familiar male voice reaches her ears. Ripples spread across Hannah's heart. Despite the distance and their disparate identities, this emotion that crosses all barriers remains burning and sincere. From then on, Michael falls into a state of obsession, recording new tapes night after night without rest, using his warm voice to read various literary works for Hannah. A steady stream of tapes is delivered to the prison, and Hannah's life gradually begins to brighten because of them. At night, she wraps herself in a blanket and listens quietly to Michael's reading, as if his voice has become the only light in her dark existence. Two lonely souls use the power of language to draw close to each other once again, until one day, Hannah hears Michael's recording of The Lady with the Dog. At that moment, it feels as if her heart has been struck hard by something. That was the final book Michael specifically chose for her before they were separated. Because of this, Hannah decides to pull herself together, and the first thing she does is go to the prison library to borrow the original copy of The Lady with the Dog. She then picks up a pen and begins the difficult task of teaching herself to read by matching the sounds on the tapes to the words. As Michael sends bundle after bundle of tapes to Hannah, she gives him a response in return. She sends a brief letter containing only a single sentence. Seeing this letter, Michael is instantly hit by a wave of panic, feeling as though he has returned to being that timid teenage boy. Michael doesn't write back, but chooses to continue recording tapes and reading even more books for Hannah. After receiving more tapes in prison, Hannah writes several more letters to Michael, one after another. Moving from her initial gratitude, she gradually transitions to requesting that he send more romance novels. This is Hannah's subtle way of confessing her feelings. However, Michael never replies to her letters because his heart is filled with contradictions. On one hand, he feels guilty for failing to help Hannah back then. On the other hand, he cannot fully forgive the crimes she once committed. Time moves forward to 1988, and while Michael is answering a phone call in his office, the warden tells him some news. Hannah is about to be released. Since Hannah has already spent 20 years in prison and no longer has any relatives on the outside, Michael is the only person she has left to reach out to. The warden hopes that Michael can help take care of Hannah once she is released. Michael doesn't give a direct answer, but simply hangs up the phone. But in the end, Michael still comes to the prison. Despite the many years apart, Michael still recognizes that aged figure. It is the woman he once loved so deeply. He slowly walks up to Hannah, a gentle smile appearing on his face, just like the one he had when he saw her in his youth.
You've grown up.
Suddenly, Michael acts as if he's been electrocuted, abruptly pulling his hand back and hurriedly turning his gaze away from Hannah. Hannah is stunned for a moment, and once she realizes what happened, she slowly pulls her own hand back as well. An awkward atmosphere instantly blankets the entire space, and they begin a silent standoff. Finally, Michael is the first to break the silence.
I did. Yes, I did. The marriage didn't last.
Have you spent a lot of time thinking about the past?
You mean with you?
No. No. I didn't mean with me.
Before the trial, I never thought about the past. I never had to.
Now. What do you feel now?
It doesn't matter what I feel. It doesn't matter what I think. The dead are still dead.
I wasn't sure what you had learned.
Well, I have learned, kid. I've learned to read.
Talking about his failed marriage, Michael remains silent for a long time, his gaze falling on Hannah's face as if searching for an answer, yet also as if resisting one. Michael then prepares to leave, promising to come and pick Hannah up for her release next week. She reads the expression on Michael's face perfectly. In truth, from the moment she received the first tape, Hannah truly fell in love with the boy who was once so simple and kind. She had written him letter after letter, waiting with high hopes for his response, but Michael never once replied. Hannah feels like it's all a dream, believing that no matter how hard she tries, she can never reclaim what has been lost. Ultimately, she stands upon the books she cherished most and resolutely ends her tragic life. A week later, when Michael returns to the prison with a bouquet of flowers, he is met instead with the news of Hannah's passing. When he walks into Hannah's cell, he finds it clean and tidy, with the walls covered in notes she left while learning to read, and the most prominent is the paper with "The Lady with the Dog" written on it. The staff hands Hannah's final will to Michael. It is a brief letter. In truth, Hannah had repented long ago. Michael recalls the sight of Hannah in the cathedral, listening to the music with tears streaming down her face, which is the best proof of her change of heart. Thinking of this, Michael cannot help but break down in tears. If he could have understood this woman with a tough exterior and a fragile heart just a little sooner, Hannah might not have chosen to leave this world. In 1995, Michael takes his daughter Julia to the church he and Hannah had once visited together. Julia has always felt her father was mysterious and distant, but now, in front of Hannah's gravestone, Michael finally confesses the secret he's hidden for years, letting her truly understand her father's complex and deep emotional world for the first time. The movie ends here. When Hannah ends her life, choosing to stand upon that yellowed copy of the Odyssey, I suddenly grasped the paradox of this woman's entire existence. She sought redemption through words, yet ultimately used those very words to build a staircase to her death. Those tapes Michael recorded are still spinning in a corner of the prison, and what's frozen in the magnetic powder isn't just the tenderness of the lady with the dog, but the unhealable psychic wound of a nation after the war. After watching the film, many will ask, does Hannah truly deserve to be forgiven? This question itself hides the sharpest metaphor of the movie. When we argue about this forbidden romance on social media, we are actually playing the roles of the jurors in that courtroom. Some focus on her atrocities in the camp. Some pity her stubbornness in hiding her illiteracy. and others obsess over whether Michael should have told the truth. But history is never a black and white multiple-choice question. Like the words flowing through those tapes, it records both the warmth of Chekhov's short stories and the blood of Auschwitz. The Reader is an incredibly deep film, and I highly recommend you watch the original. We'll see you in the next episode.